Do I have somebody to move the agenda? Joan moves it. Rick seconds it. Do I have somebody to move the
You're delayed.
playback? All those in favor of that motion? Carried. Is there any declaration of pecuniary interest? None noted. We have the minutes for the November 20th meeting. Kathy moves those and Joan seconds them. Is there any questions or is there any questions? Rick, do you have any questions about the minutes there?
No.
Okay. All those in favor of those minutes? Carried. So business arising from the minutes, I've got the provincial appointment update. So, well, it's not much of an update. It's something, but it's
nice you have, because I haven't.
It is
I'm the appointee.
It is something. The provincial appointment update was, so I had a conversation with Dwayne Sprague last week, explaining to him our displeasure with the process of the provincial appointments and how that anybody who is on a provincial appointment that is expiring, like Joan, for example, can't reapply to the job until the actual position becomes expired. Dwayne has mentioned that it has been communicated to the ministry that their portal and their website is not user-friendly. It's counterproductive. However, Dwayne did mention that they seem to, over the last 2 months, have been processing the provincial appointments more frequently. Like they've got more through the pylon, or through the pile, I guess. What he did mention is I did say to him, so I communicated what we had talked about at the last meeting, how board member Joan, you basically said, I'm almost done with this process, in the fact that if their community rep position would be available, I would almost rather apply to that than have to go through this process again. So I had mentioned that to Dwayne, and he basically said to me, the best thing for that information would be to go directly to the ministry with it. So what I'm saying is, I got an email from Dwayne with the contact information of the person that's on, that is the contact at the ministry with regards to the provincial appointees discussion. And I will just get you.
Who is that?
I'm trying to find the contact.
Says Joan, who was ready to email them herself.
Oh, I already have. They don't respond.
No, they don't respond. And that's one of the things that they said, they don't respond. But what it did say to me is, let me just find it. He said maybe if there it is. Danny Strong.
Oh, that's a new name.
So he is the MPP liaison and public appointments. He works in the office of the Honorable Sylvia Jones. Basically, Dwayne said, this is the number to call. I would mention that you got it from me, but it's public information, so you could get it. What he's suggesting is that, they need to hear this. They need to hear that type of stuff about provincial appointees who don't want to reapply because of the rigmarole that relates to their process. And it may not go anywhere, but it may go somewhere.
Well, there's no continuity.
Correct.
When you're done December 31st, and then you wait another 6 months to a year to get back on. That's just ridiculous.
Yeah. So what I've I said that, you know, I was going to make that phone call. However, after I got off the phone with Dwayne, I said, you know, maybe I'm going to take a step back, bring this information to the board. If the board wishes that I make that phone call on behalf of the board, then I would do it. It's not really a position where, as the chair, I would prefer to do it on my own, but I think it's also, you know, if the board wishes to be just to leave it, let it be, I think I should let it be too. So, you know, I'm bringing it to the board to make that decision on whether they would so wish me to make that call and explain not mine, but our and Joan's frustration with this whole provincial appointee discussion.
As provincial appointee, I would prefer to deal with them directly as to going through a third party. I certainly have some criticism of the process. I mean, the first time I was on years ago, it took a year for them to process it. The second time I came on, it was 6 months, and then they just extended it because of the election for another 6 months. So I'm really reluctant to reapply if it's not just gonna flow over. Like, if it's just not continuous, if it's another 6 months to a year, I just think that's ridiculous. Especially given the amount of work we've done in the last year with the committee and like the police association and what, I just think I feel like I'm spinning my wheels.
So is there any other comments from the board? Like, is there anything else you would want me as the chair or us as the board to communicate or not communicate, or leave it with Joan to do, or what? I'm looking for the board to decide. Because like I said, Dwayne said that probably it would be good for them to hear it, but you're calling the ministry, so it may go somewhere, it may go nowhere.
So are you entitled to another 2-year appointment, or have you served your 2 terms?
No, I've served 2, and then they extended it for 6 months.
Okay.
So there's basically 18 months there or whatever. But okay, so this is my question. When you're converting over the OPP and an OPP board, they're quite often a smaller board. Do you need to still have 5 people on your board, or are you going to go with a smaller one? Because if you want to go with the smaller one, there's no sense me reapplying anyhow.
Well,
and that's not the same discussion, but it does bear on it.
So it's not the same discussion. That discussion needs to be had. The board needs to make that decision on what they see as the best complement of that board, because it's not the same complement. It doesn't have to be the same complement. It can be.
It's not the same duties either.
No, it's more of a it's more of a governance role as opposed to operational. Like, we're not really operational anyways, but you don't get involved in the budgeting or anything like that. It's more of you all become more of a community services representative than an actual board.
Which is what East Wawanosh and Blythe should have already.
They don't.
And they don't.
They don't.
They're supposed to have a community representation with the OPP.
Yeah.
But the board acts on their behalf for that, or has in the past.
But right, and the information, just so I had asked Dwayne that question as well, and so if that is the case, it would be 2 separate. Like, if Blythe and East Wawanosh went to approach, it would be 2 separate entities. It would be, they would have a board, and we would have a board, because the board this North Huron Police Services Board is only looking after the contract that has been signed with the OPP in the town of Wingham. That's what is going to be looked at. But at this point, because the first meeting of technically this new board happens in January, when the new chair and new vice chair gets elected, it doesn't make any sense to have that conversation about board complement until that meeting happens. And so, you know, I don't think that anything dramatically is going to change. but I'm only one person. I don't know what the board's gonna willing to talk, but we got one representative that still hasn't been appointed yet. So that is what, there's lots of things with that board comp we gotta discuss, whether it's gonna be through 5 or 3, how often are we gonna have meetings? Because they don't necessarily have to be monthly. They could be quarterly, they could be whenever, they have to have 4 times a year. But what does that complement look like? We have to relook at our whole procedural bylaw and what that looks like after coming into this, the whole OPP thing. So to answer your question, Joan, we don't know. But, you know, at the end of the day, December 31st is going to come and go. And by the time our next meeting happens, you're not going to know any more.
Nope.
Or any less than what we know from a principal appointee perspective.
But our board remains the same for the months of January, February.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Nothing changes.
So I don't think it would hurt for someone to make that phone call.
Okay.
Both is
Well, Joan's been communicating to wherever she's been given direction to, right? You got numbers from somebody.
This is the woman I've been in correspondence with for the last 2.5 years.
Right.
Yeah. And sometimes we talk on the phone and sometimes we email.
Right.
Yeah.
This person, Dwayne's saying, is directly relating to the ministry, like the minister. So
That'd probably be the good person to talk to.
So worst case scenario, it's not giving them grief. It's just stating an obvious. We've got provincial appointees in the smallest the smallest police services board in Ontario. People don't want to apply because your process is flawed. So if we're having that grief, I can't imagine like a Kitchener-Waterloo or those people having not the same problems, and people not wanting to reapply because they don't want to. It's a problem with the process. It's not. It's a tedious, time-consuming process, and the whole applying online was a great idea, but the problem is you can't apply until you're expired. So what? Like that makes no sense.
Yeah, that should be just for a new application, not an
Absolutely,
extension.
not an extension.
Yeah, and like the first time was about 10 years ago that I was on. I forget exactly when it was, but when it was my second term, it just like we're reappointing you. There wasn't any wait in between. It was just flowed one to the other,
Yeah.
which makes sense.
Which, you know, in all honesty, that might be the case, but you have to wait. The problem is you have to wait till December 31st to find out whether
Yeah.
that process is that. So worst case scenario, it might be, you know, I'm thinking at worst, I may be able to call and ask that question directly to him that says, if after December 31st comes and Joan applies, the fact that she's a renewal, is it just going to happen? Or is it going to take 6 to 8 months? Because I will tell you, if that is the case, I've got a provincial appointee now that is not probably going to apply, and leave it at that, and see what he says.
Fair enough.
So if the board is okay with that, I would take a motion for me to make that phone call on behalf of the board and Joan. Joan, you're okay with that?
Yes.
And then I will make that phone call and see where we go from there. Kathy will move that, and Rick will second it. All those in favor? Carried. Okay. So, like I said, wasn't any real update other than just it was me trying to get some direction whether you wanted me to make that phone call or not. Okay. We'll move on to the police chief's report, and that is for December. Go ahead, chief.
Okay, I did submit the written report, which you all have, so I'll just skim over it. We had 127 calls for service. 5 of those were in the OPP area to assist their officers that were working up here by themselves at night. During the same period in 2017, we had 109, so we're a little bit busier in November. I have prepared a draft budget, even though we're going to be disbanded in 2 months. I have that here for presentation later on in the meeting. With our disbandment coming up, we do have some assets, several assets. Most of them will be turned over to the township, but there's some that cannot be. And that's the pistols and rifles that we have. They must go to another police service or be destroyed. Those are the two options with those. Also that Cogent card scanner that we purchased outright. That's a fingerprint scanner. A lot of the services in the area, right across the province, have contacted me and they want that because they didn't have the foresight to see that the live scan doesn't always work and you need to take it on ink sometimes. So I think we'll be able to auction that off to another police service as well without any problem. So I'm looking for the board's permission to advertise those items to all the other chiefs out there that might be interested, especially the Glocks. We bought those with the understanding that the police service was going to increase in numbers. So those items were purchased and delivered, and then council switched their decision to disband us. So we have 12 Glocks sitting over in our office. 6 of them are being used by our officers, but there's 6 that are brand spanking new, so we should be able to get a good return on those. The company, of course, will not take them back. They sold them, they're happy. I do have some interest of a couple of police agencies in those. The 6 hours, the old 6 hours that we have, nobody wants them. They will be cut up. I've already made an appointment for a company that does that and certifies it for us to come up and destroy our seized firearms and stuff like that. They'll be up on the 20th of February, the day before we disband. We have a very expensive digital repeater up in the water tower. We have 7 Motorola handheld radios and 3 mobile radios. They're all compatible with the North Huron Fire Department has, and all they have to do is reprogram them. And they're ready to get a few new radios, and they were looking for their new budget or for their budget. So I'm going to suggest to the township that they just transfer those radios over to them and they just reprogram. And that will give them a good repeater system at the tower, along with their old radios, but it certainly saves $1,800 per unit. We also have 3 vehicles outfitted with lights and sirens. 2 of them are 2011 models, the Crown Victoria and the Dodge Charger. The Charger has an engine problem that we do not use it for policing. It's only administrative. As far as I'm concerned, well, they will go to the township. The township should just get rid of them. The 2017 Interceptor that we have, however, the fire department has also expressed an interest in that to use as a chief's vehicle. So with the purchase cost of that vehicle being around $35,000 initially, and then there was 2 insurance deductible claims with it when it was rammed once and smashed up a second time. We'd never be able to recuperate it if we tried to sell it. Recuperate that $50,000 in a 2017 vehicle. So the fire department has expressed an interest in that as well. The officers have all completed their online or their applications to the OPP, and the OPP have advised them that they will be informed of any decision to hire about 2 to 3 weeks prior to the transition. So they won't know until the end of January, early February if they're hired or not. The dispatch contract, I was approached by the chief, Bowen Sound. He requested that they be officially notified of the final date of their dispatching for our service. And I contacted the OPP as a result of being asked this by the chief. And they said it will be noon, or planned to be noon on the 21st. We'll be throwing the switch. 21st of February, that is. Some things I didn't get a chance to put in my written report because, well, it didn't happen yet. But I've conducted 3 civics classes, guest presentations up at the high school since our last report. That is it.
Any questions for the chief? So chief, just the six firearms that are being used, we should be able to get some decent return on
I would
those.
think so. There,
The other 6 we should probably get full value for.
hopefully.
You're saying, did you say that the 6 rifles would be are not?
There's interest in those as well. There's
Okay.
also even interest in our tasers,
So
even
what,
though they're obsolete.
what was the one that you said that there hasn't
The
been?
6 hours.
The
6 hours, they are old pistols
Oh,
falling apart.
the ones that are falling apart. Yeah, I don't feel okay.
The ones that when you pull the trigger in the proving barrel, it would break.
Okay.
And finally the company said, we're not going to repair them anymore. That's how bad they were.
Yeah, and kind of a follow up to the chief's dispatch contract is, I assume based on, I guess, did they mention that did they express that they received our original, or?
Chief Sornberger wasn't aware that we had sent something?
He was not,
No, he was not.
okay? So obviously, it's either going to the board chair and he's not responding to the chief.
Yeah.
So what I would ask is, because this was a part of the other business that I was going to bring up, is that I will be asking the board to provide me a motion to send the official date of disbandment to the Owen Sound Police Service. And I will ask the chief to actually provide me the chief's from Owen Sound's.
It doesn't matter, he's gone.
Oh,
He finished last Friday.
okay. So never mind. I'll just send it to where I sent it before. I guess I'll send it to there and then I'll follow up with the.
I will find out who the acting, who's filling the
Okay.
position.
Okay.
Officially, he's still there until the end of the year.
Okay.
But his last day of work was last Friday.
And in saying that, basically what, based on just so for Rick's kind of idea as well, is that we haven't had a contract since last December. So last December was that contract for dispatching had ceased. They have not haven't renegotiated it, and it has been our position that any other terms of that contract are null and void. Basically, we're paying the price that was on the contract before, with what probably inflation is my guess, but their comment about needing 12 months of notice and all that, it will be stated in the letter again that we are under the impression that we are on a month-to-month and you will not be getting any extra months than after February. You'll be not getting any more payments after February. And we'll let the board decide, board decide which way they want to play that card. But if you don't have a signed agreement, all the other agreement is null in my mind. So we're paying for the service, we're getting a service, but we're telling them we told them in October that we were officially probably going to be disbanded, and now we're really officially telling them we're going to be disbanded. Does your budget, chief, have, if we were to give you direction in order to advertise these items, does your budget incorporate the funds associated to getting these sold?
No.
Okay.
Nothing in.
Okay. So based on the police chief's report, I'm seeing that he would like a motion from the board to provide him direction to advertise the pistols, the rifle, and the computer. And then have discussions with the municipality, the fire department, and Dwayne with regards to the radios and the vehicle. Kathy moves that. Joan seconds it. Any other questions for the chief with regards to that? All those in favor? Carried. Okay, so, and I will, I need a motion to hereby approve the police chief's report as presented. Joan moves that, and Rick seconds it. All those in favor? Carried. Bills and accounts, 8.1. So it's a pretty light month. It's like some janitorial stuff, some hydro, gas, dumpster. And then that's the building. Okay, is there any questions on the bills and accounts? I'm not seeing any, so I would take a motion hereby authorizing and approve the payments of the bills and accounts in the total of $8,120.78 for the period of November the 18th to December the 4th. Ending as supported by the Secretary Treasurer's list of vouchers. Rick moves those. Kathy seconds them. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, so correspondence there. We received some meeting minute agenda for the Zone 5, which I was upset that I wasn't able to go. I had planned on it, then work took over. Meeting minutes from the 18th, directory, and then stuff from the Ontario Police Services Board. There a motion to direct the correspondence to be ordered, read, and filed. Joan moves that. And Rick seconds it. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, new business. So under new business, I'll follow up with that motion for the chair to send the for the board authorizing the chair to send a letter to the Owen Sound Police Services Board with the official disbandment date of and the cancellation of dispatch services.
We'll make that motion.
Rick will move that. Kathy seconds it. All those in favor? Carried. I think under here we'll let's chat. Chief, do you have your budget there?
I do. And I noticed when I got here that I put something in twice, which is a mistake on my part, so
Okay.
I ink amended it to the correct numbers.
Okay.
Of course, it'll be corrected before it's sent over to Donna, subject to approval.
Thank you.
No, my leg wasn't gonna fit through there. So start at the revenue. Parking revenues has been the tickets that we issue. We're only gonna be around for 2 months, so there's no way of me guessing at how much we're gonna do for that. We don't plan on transferring anything from reserves that I'm aware of from the board. Court security and prisoner transport is something that Donna has been handling all the time, just getting the input from me for when we had court throughout the year. So I'll continue to liaise with her for that grant income. The conditional grants were up in the air when I did this budget. I've since submitted our CPP and 1,000 officer grant interim report. So we're not sure how much, if any, money is going to come our way for 2019. That was for 2018. So when on our last day, the service's last day, I will be submitting our final report for that grant. And I won't know until then if there's any to come into the 2019 budget. So I put 0 for that. Salaries, full-time, all of our officers are on salary. These salaries include the basic salary. If there's a sick benefit for any of the officers in 2019, their service pay, their fitness pay, and if there's any on-call time payout to be done for the new 2 months from December on, when we last submitted the on-call. So that is all included in there. The benefits I worked on 30%, keeping in mind that my benefits on disbandment will continue for 1 year as part of my working agreement, or contract, sorry. Overtime, I'm estimating a maximum of $3,000, maximum. We're not going to have to buy any uniforms for anyone. We're not going to join any like the OACP, CACP, and none of us will be traveling to any workshops in the 2 months, so that's a good thing. The things that are highlighted are police board expenses. Like police board has always said a couple $1,000s for expenses, and you people are still going to be in existence whether we're here or not. So I left those numbers in the budget. We still will need some office supplies, paper, toner. And toner is very expensive for the printers and photocopiers. Phone, fax, internet, in a regular bill, it's approximately $600 for the 2 months that we're going to be there. I prorated the insurance that the township pays for us to $1,000. Roughly, we're $12,000 a year, so it should be about $1,000 for the time that we're there. Legal and accounting. This is something I'm not sure if the board wants to continue to put that $5,000 there. I think it's a good idea if the board budgets for it for this year, just in case something does happen during this transition and you need some legal advice. I think you should have that money in your budget. Equipment maintenance and repair. Really, that's mostly our vehicles. So there will be a couple oil servicing, and if anything does break, we're looking at probably about $500. 2 months of fuel right now, like I budgeted at $1.30 a liter because I heard it was going up, but it seems to be going down. It is going up in the city for sure, but an estimate of $2,400 for our vehicles for the 2 months. And our communication system. This is one that I'm probably going to have to explain. That is our radio contract with Owen Sound, which is just over $2,000 a month. It's our cell phone contract, which we will be terminating early and we have to pay out. That is unless the township wants to take that over to get new cell phones. And 3 of them are Blackberries with a data plan. So the township may take that over, so that could change that amount. But we had signed again when we thought that we were taking on more people, including an additional supervisor. We signed on for another 3-year term, and now we're closing that down after 1 year. So there's a penalty to that contract. And Optic, I did send an email to Paul Hamlin, the chair of the Ontario Police Technology and Information Center, or cooperative, sorry. And normally they bill us quarterly, and a quarter is $1,700. So for 2 months, I'm estimating $1,500. And that brings us to a total for the 2 months of $277,699.03. And looking at it in reality, the only thing I can see trimming down will be the fuel, knowing that the price is now around 94 cents a liter.
Okay. Is there any questions for the chief based on the information that's presented here? So just as an update for the board as well. So the board, the payouts for the vacation and the on-call time that was carried over from the past 25 years has been paid out effectively. I think it was this week, I believe. It was on their payroll. So that has been covered in 2018's pay. 2019 is going to be the whatever was carried over from a vacation perspective, and any on-call time from November 20th to December the 31st. If any call that time is carried over, that time will be paid out, and that is what the chief is saying is in this included in this budget here. What this budget does not incorporate that is being calculated by the municipality is the one-time transition costs, meaning severances and the one-time costs associated to fixing the OPP satellite office on whatever street, the Bristol Terrace. So that'll be incorporated in there. That'll be incorporated into the police station budget. I'm assuming that they'll look after. I've asked them to coordinate that. If they have questions, they're supposed to ask. But Donna had mentioned to me that she has access to the agreements, which she should, through Mandy. Then they can calculate what that termination pay is. I think if there's no other questions, I think the communicate. I would have to bet if I was a betting man, I would be here to bet that there's got to be cell phone plans in this company, in the municipality that have gone their life. And we're talking 6 cell phones, correct?
7 cell phones, 3 of them are BlackBerry with data plans.
Okay.
And we have to get rid of the GPS locator, like cut those lines off anyway.
Okay. I would suggest that, Chief, you have a conversation with Dwayne with regards to those plans. It doesn't make any sense from a cost perspective that we pay for a cancellation charge if we could so choose, and
Yeah,
those
transfer it
numbers
over,
can
yeah.
just be transferred over to staff or whatever, if they need them. If they don't, obviously, we don't have a choice, but, you know, I would hate for us to just say we don't need them, and then come March, I see a report on my council package that says we
Looking for cell
looking
phone
for
plan.
cell phones. So I think if we did that, at least from between now and February, that would be probably a good idea.
I'll make that happen.
And then you can follow up back with the board as to whether that is gonna change or not. I would suggest we leave the budget as is, assuming that, you know, that's worst case scenario then. The budget then is worst case scenario. And just so everybody is clear on the salaries are, and this is more for Rick's value than anybody else. The salaries are based on 2018's pay with a 4% increase plus cost of living. So you're looking at basically a 6% increase. And that was negotiated to get them to be the equivalent to every police force in relatively close to in Ontario, give or take. So bearing that in mind, the fact that this is a preliminary budget, Donna is going through budget preliminaries now with the municipality. My suggestion is that, you know, I think we take this information, we peruse it for the next month or so, but I think my suggestion is we give direction to the chief to forward it on to Donna to at least get it inside the preliminary for budget purposes. And then, you know, we will tell Donna that the board is still reviewing, making sure that we're going to make sure that we have all the information available to us so that we can then in turn, before they approve it, we will approve it. Is anybody against that from a board perspective? Because I know Donna was asking me on Monday. She said, I see the budget's going to board on Monday. I said, well, yeah, we're gonna see it. You will get a copy of it, but it won't be approved until the board has at least a month to review and provide information back to the chief and get some direction. Okay, so so what I'll do is let's just communicate that. So is there a motion to allow, to give direction to the chief to submit the preliminary budget to the municipality? Rick moves that, Joan seconds it. All those in favor? Carried. So just so everybody is clear, that does not mean the budget is approved. It's just a preliminary to look up to them, and then we'll have a review of it again we'll make sure we put that on the budget or on the agenda for the January meeting. And then by then we'll have a better answer then of that information, and we'll definitely be in a better position to maybe send that information back to them to confirm. Okay. The other new business I did want to mention is that the municipality was head on the agenda to review two applicants who have submitted their expression of interest to join the community rep position on the board. One of the individuals couldn't attend the council meeting on Monday. So, the other applicant was okay with deferring it until both applicants could be in attendance to present their expression of interest to open council. Council would then go into close, discuss the applicants and their expression of interest. And then once that applications are reviewed, they would then get an appointment. Probably it will be the first, I think it's going to be the first meeting in January is my at least my belief. So I think that will happen then. So there's only 2 applicants. Once that is approved, they will come here, no different than our new member, Rick McBurney, and we will carry on with a full complement -1 because it seems like every time we get a full one goes away. But we'll go on with that. So that's the process. That was one of the reasons for the delay of the meeting till today. However, with that happening, the other option was we didn't know who was going to be the council appointees until Monday either. So, at that point it was better just to delay it than not. So, okay. The only other new business that I had wanted to mention was council training. So the new Dwayne Sprague was also a conversation with him as a follow-up to the municipality is providing council as well as the police services board the training that is necessary as a board member. It's not mandatory that you take the training, but it's highly recommended that you understand your roles on the board, knowing full well. And the one thing is that Dwayne did mention is that his intention would be to bring the information that would be to disseminate between the 2 boards. So here's what your role is in January and February. Here's your role after disbandment. So he could disseminate what those roles look like, how it looks, how it feels, all that type of stuff. So he's been in contact with, he is going to be in contact with Carrie from the municipality here and Dwayne to kind of coordinate that. I have said that once the board has had their January meeting and we've got a chair and a vice chair again, that we will definitely hit them up for whether it's just going to be at the council meeting. And if that's the case, then I would just ask that the municipality, but it would be beneficial that the board be allowed to come into that meeting to hear the same information that they're hearing. Okay, so that's really the new business, just more of feedback that I've been getting back and forth to try to get us to a place where we are today. Is there any board members' inquiries? Is there any questions or that you've had or you thought you should have in the last? I know Rick, it's new for Rick, so feel free to ask away.
I got one question that came up a little bit earlier, something about representing Blythe and East Wallace when it comes to the OPP. This is in North here, aren't we the same?
So how it works, Rick, is Blythe and East Wallace are under what they call a Section 5.1 contract, which is a contract for service, and that's it. So East Wallace and Blythe ratepayers pay for a set of service. That's what you're paying for, and you already know what your cost is. The conversation is, yes, you could, that community could have a board if they so choose, and therefore they would have the detachment commander or somebody from the OPP come and sit on that, and they could provide direct feedback to the OPP. That has not occurred, and I'm not sure why, but that has never been the case.
They're called an advisory committee with
Yeah.
5.1, not a board.
Yeah, so
It's not a formal board. It's just basically someone from council meets with the OPP sergeant for that area. They did assign, last one I remember was Arden Farrell. And the community council, the community representative for East Wabash and Blythe, the OPP, did come out to our meetings, and this is 2004, 2005? A
We
long
had a
time ago.
Dana Early. too.
Yeah, Dana as well, I forgot about her, yeah. So they used to come out to these meetings and act that role with the board. But
But what has
But they
happened
haven't,
now
yeah.
is, what has happened now, Rick, is generally if people in East Wabash and Blythe have a concern about what their level of policing is or the incidents that are happening in East Blythe and East Wabash, they come and they represent them at council. And then council could choose to request the OPP to come and make a presentation, which happened, I believe that happened in August or September when there was a rash of vehicle thefts in the area and thefts overall, just in the rural areas. So that happened. It tends to be now where the board, the council and the community rep tends to be the
same thing.
same thing, but it becomes it's the council that has taken that responsibility, not necessarily because of they want it. It's just that's it's migrated to.
There's only a board when it's municipal police service or if it's under contract. So like the OPP, are assuming a contract of Wingham, and it's gonna be for 3 years, 10 months. I think it's 3+ contract because they're taking over in February. They'll get all of that year, then 3 more. That contract will be in place.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So I'm not. Okay, if there's. So we don't have no public gallery. And we moved the budget into open because there didn't necessarily need to be any communication because there was no identifiable individuals. So there is no in-camera session tonight. So the next meeting would be scheduled for. So currently, right now, it's the meetings are scheduled for the 3rd Tuesday. But I know that if I recall, there is a council budget meeting that night. So is there any concern from the board to either move it to the following week or the Thursday? I guess I'll leave that up to the board to decide whether it's more beneficial for it to be on a Tuesday, or push it off. I will tell you my own personal opinion would be push it off a week, only because my family would really love me home.
Well, the first Tuesday of the month is New Year's Day.
New Year's
as
Day,
well.
yeah. So
Can't really count that.
right. I'm assuming, Rick, you would probably prefer it to be the next week as well. We're gonna have a full week that week.
I got a Legion meeting landing there. Cause it's scheduled for the 1st.
There you go.
Makes no difference to me.
And it doesn't make any difference to Joan. Really.
You can still come out.
Yep.
We'll see.
Cheers.
Lots of cheers. Okay, so let's reschedule that. Chief, you're okay for that day?
Yeah.
So let's reschedule that to January the 22nd. And if you can make sure that that gets properly publicized, we'll go from there. If there is nothing else, I will take the motion to adjourn. Kathy moves that and Rick seconds it. All those in favor? Carried.
So many times my hand just wants to shut